This program is designed to provide general information with regards to the subject matters covered. This information is given with the understanding that neither the hosts, guests, sponsors, or station are engaged in rendering any specific and personal, medical, financial, legal, counseling, professional service, or any advice. You should seek the services of competent professionals before applying or trying any suggested ideas.
Hi, welcome. Welcome back. If you've been with me the past couple of weeks, welcome to my fourth show. And this is The Sound of Gold. So the reason I have this show is because music is so important. If you're a musician, if you play an instrument, you're a musician. Whether you're a beginner or advanced, no matter where you are, in what level you're at and you're playing, I say we are the magicians behind the instrument, and we just bring the instrument alive. And I would like to believe that everything is energy, and we live by vibration and sound, and how we feel. Music helps us to relate to how we feel, especially if you're a composer and you play music or you write music. Today I have a very special guest on with me, David Goodman. And David is a singer-songwriter located here in South Florida. He is pretty magical when it comes to the songs and stories he shares. And we're going to hear some of his original pieces, as well as find out a little bit more about his journey as a musician and a little bit about his lifestyle. For those of you that are out there thinking about making music a career, or maybe you have been living that lifestyle, it's always nice to hear somebody else's viewpoint and learn. I know even though I'm a music teacher, I'm also a student. I love to learn. Please help me welcome David Goodman. David, are you there?
I'm here. Hi, Lisa.
Welcome. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks
How
for
are
having me.
you?
This pretty cool thing you're doing. I love it.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, David, we have so much talent in our community, and what's driven me to do this show is I want all of us to get recognized. We have so much talent and so much to give, and music is such a gift we get to share. And I know you have so many stories, and you've had such an incredible journey and continue to have an incredible journey. And the people you've met and the stories that you've shared, because I've heard you play live. And I know that your music to the audience is a gift. And I don't know if you want to start out with something like that, because you did share with me you did write something in regard to the gift. And do you want to tell us a little bit about it, or do you want to just jump right into that before we go into more conversations about your journey?
I'm kind of set up to play the gift. It's in a funny tune. It's in an E flat tuning. So I figured I would start with it, then I could tune the guitar back so I can play a couple other things. Well, the gift. I swear it was just channeled through, and it was Christmas time 2 years ago when I wrote it, and I was actually working on another song that I was learning for one of those church services, and and somehow I was playing with doing in this tuning, and then I ended up writing my own song. It just fell out, and like I say, being Christmas time, I just felt like it felt like it came as a gift for all of us, you know. And I didn't plan on writing it. It just, you know, like so many of them, you know, that I think some of the best songs I've ever written, you know, didn't take a lot of work. They took some sculpting afterwards, and
Sure.
yeah, but and you know, I mentor songwriters, and I always tell them, you know, take that first inspiration and let it flow and let it come out of you, and then go back and what did John Prine once said to me? He said writing a song is taking a blank piece of paper and removing what shouldn't be there. You know, and so I've always taken that attitude with my own writing, is to go back and look at it and take out articles that aren't necessary, or you know, and try to remove myself from the song a little bit, and try to think about what's being communicated. But the gift, it just I think I spent maybe 2 hours on it, and I don't know what else I would do to it. So I'd love to play that for you all, because I think it's just a really good thought for the world, you know. And
I'd love to hear it. Yeah, the listeners out there would love to hear it too.
all right, well, let me see. It's one of the more difficult pieces I ever wrote too for guitar. So wish me luck. You know Linda Kiley, right?
Yes.
Yeah, she does a beautiful piano part on this.
Oh, okay.
Something you might play with.
All right.
There's a light shines through the darkness, through the veil of the shadows you fear, hiding behind the clouds you thought ruled your sky. If you just take a moment to slow down, silence the chatter you hear, be still just until the sun shines again in your eyes. When turbulent tides overcome you, hurricanes blow through your life, and the walls you believe would protect you come tumbling down. Soon enough, the rain will stop falling, and new dawn will forsake the night. Have faith and believe, let love lead, you'll be safe and sound. And love is all we take with us. Love is all we must do. Love is still the answer we always knew. Love is a blessed creator. Love is the song we all sing. Love is the gift I bring. Love is everything. When you're fixed on the rearview mirror, counting losses and sorrows and shame, you might run off the road, never see what lies ahead. We've all burned some bridges behind us. We're all flying blind in the wind. One thing that's certain is love when it's all done and said. So if you need someone to love you, someone who will always be there, it's not her, it's not him. Look within, it's always been you. We can walk close together a short while, share our stories, our tears, and our smiles. But when the door grows and finally opens, one will walk through. And love is all we take with us. Love is all we must do. Love is still the answer we always knew. Love is a blessed creator. Love is a song we all sing. Love is the gift I bring. Love is everything. Love is a blessed creator. Love is the song we all sing. Love is the gift. Love is everything. Love is everything. Love.
That was beautiful. That was beautiful. Thank you. And I understand you, from what I understand, what you had said, you had wrote this a couple years ago during holiday season. Is that correct?
I think it happened just before, and sometime in December. Yeah, yeah, that's pretty much.
And what I felt, and everybody feels is going to feel how they feel. What I felt is um, everybody will get their own message. However, my feeling was that that song told me or spoke to me as far as love yourself and know that you're always loved and nothing else matters but love. And that's so true. We get so busy with life and doing and going and being and seeing, and it just, we get so, especially with the technology today, we get so busy in that, and we forget that I mean, nothing really else matters. Not the car you drive, the money in the bank, the, you know, the kind of house you live in. It all comes down to love. And we've all, not going too far off left field, but we've all lost someone in our lives that's been dear to us. And I think those specific times make us realize how valuable we are to each other and how much love there is in the world around us. And we just, you know, so thank you for sharing that song with us, because it helps me. I think it helps our audience just to be reminded that that's the most important thing in our lives.
Yeah, it's a, and I think that last verse wasn't to say that we're not all going, we get to the other side, we're not going to be together or see each other, or that it's just all about me. I think the idea, though, is to understand that when we're done with all this, the one thing that I've heard so many people that have NDEs or say that, when they go through the experience, you're not thinking about your car or your money or your house or your clothes or your career or your success or your failures. You're just thinking about the ones you love, and you're thinking about the love. But I think the song had, which was really another important thing to say, especially for all of us when we get older, and you look back at your life, and and that is if you look back with regret, at your mistakes or the things that didn't work, if you get stuck in that rearview mirror, you're missing out on the moment now and what's to come. The idea is we grow. That's why we're here in this world, is to grow, to learn, and we're allowed to make mistakes. That's the whole idea of forgiveness, and that's not a religious statement. It's a spiritual statement that forgiveness is natural. You forgive your children, and we forgive each other. And it's important to be able to do that, because nobody here gets unscathed in this world. We're all flying blind, so love's the one thing that will lead you through it, so don't get stuck in the past. I thought that was an
Absolutely.
important part of that lyric. Yeah.
Yes, yes, absolutely. I have a bunch of questions to ask you, and so I guess I'm going to start with what, where were you? What in life inspired you to take this direction into like just playing music? And I know you play at different venues, and I want to hear about that, and kind of, like I said, I have a bunch of different questions. So start with the first, which is,
All right.
tell us
Well,
a little bit about
that's
you
an
and
easy
about
one.
your history.
Yeah. There was, I didn't really have a choice in the matter. I came in to this world with that mission, you might say. So I was born
That's
into a family where I had a pretty dysfunctional family in some ways, you know, as far as my mother and marriages and husbands. But my sisters and I were my sisters, my two of my dear stepsisters were very tight. But my mother, one thing she loved was music, and her father, who was lived with us for many years, as it was a concert violinist. So
okay.
and I remember being in diapers, and he'd have his string quartets in the living room. So music was around us. Even my mother wrote songs like in the 40s. She loved music. She was always giving me instruments when I was little, and I could always take to it. I could sit down. I never studied piano, but I could sit down at a piano or an organ and just begin playing chords and notes. I remember
Wow.
my grandfather. He had a Stradivarius, and he would never let me touch it as a little kid, of course. But first day of first grade, I came home, and he had put the violin on the dining table, and with the case open, and he and mom hid around the corner, and to see what I would do, and and we had just learned "Oh Beautiful for Spacious Skies" in first grade, and our first music day in school. And I walked up to this violin, and I put my fingers on that violin laying in its case, and I plucked the melody out note for note perfect. Didn't know how. It was just one of those moments, you know, where the oversoul, you know, the soul steps in. So I mean, I just music was everything in our lives, you know. And when the Beatles hit, it was all that was it for me, you know. I got my first guitar at 13, and actually two guitars. Two old guitars my folks had bought at an estate sale. What they A couple weeks later, they took those two old beat up guitars. I mean, they had ivory tuning keys, and they were cracking, and I would have to tune it with a pair of pliers. But
Wow.
they thought they were doing a good thing. They took those two guitars to the local music store and traded both of them in on a really lousy electric Kingston guitar and a K amplifier that I hated. I did not like electric guitar. For some reason, I took to the wood. What they didn't know was those two old guitars were pre-World War II Martin 0021s, probably worth about $30,000 a piece.
Wow.
But so I immediately, as soon as I could, got back to wooden guitar. I related, you know, to myself as a songwriter. I began writing songs. Well, I was writing poetry at 12 and 13, but I didn't connect it as a talent until, or a natural ability. I don't know. Talent's a funny word. Um,
Yeah.
it was first day of ninth grade, and we had this wonderful teacher. Her name was Ms. Holden, and she decided that she was going to teach literature first, although the curriculum dictates were that we were supposed to do 6 months, you know, first half of the year English. But she got up in front of the class that first day, and she said, you know, you've had 8 years of English. Now we're going to learn why you've had English. And so we're going to do literature. And she had us read poetry all through the class. And we read Walt Whitman, Emily Dickinson, Edgar Allan Poe, some stuff of Robert Louis Stevenson's, and I don't remember what. And at the end of the class, she said, "Now go home and write 3 poems," which I did. I'd never really, you know, I know I was scribbling stuff, but never thought of actually writing a poem. And so I wrote 3 poems, and we came into the class and we turned our poems in, and she had us read again. And we're thinking, what? Is she going to teach or what? She wanted us to read some more. But what she was doing was she was reading our poems. And towards the end of the class, she called me up to the desk. I thought I was in trouble. And she said, here, she handed me my poems. She said, David, read these to the class. And so I read my 3 poems to the class, and she stood up and she says, "Class, that's poetry. The rest of you go home and write 3 more." And the bell
Wow.
rang. She said, "David, sit down for a minute." And she came over and she put her fingers on, and she tapped, you know, on my poem. She said, "That's what you do." And that changed my
Nice.
life. She used to come hear my shows later when I was like 18 and 19, you know. She'd come to my, you know, she became a friend and a fan. But that one moment, that lady set me on a path to being a songwriter. And it just lyrics were flowing out of me. I could even play you my first song if you want. But you know, so that's where it began. You know, it was just, you know, so in my teens, I was supporting myself through the last years of high school and living with friends, and had a real good friend in school, Leah. We had a little circle of friends, and the girl in that circle of, there were four of us. Her father was had been a drummer back in the beatnik days. He even played drums with Billie Holiday. And her mother was
Okay.
an artist and taught at the art at Heron Art School. And I rented a room in their house when I was 16. Uh, and It was there that her mother was telling me, especially her mom was telling me, Peg was telling me, you should do this for a living. You're really good at it. Why don't you should pursue it. And I didn't know where to begin, but I started playing down, and we had an area in Indianapolis called Talbot Street where all the hippies hung out, and started playing a little pizza parlor down there, and then I started getting a few other gigs up around the Broad Ripple area where we were living, and then I lucked into a 5 day a week job with Steak and Ale, Jolly Ox Steak and Ale restaurants. All I had to do was I set my PA up, and it stayed there, and I was making pretty good money at that time in 1970. One, making 250, $300 a week, and so that set me on the road, and then it just took off from there, and that's where it
Nice.
began. Yeah.
Now you've been in Florida for quite some time, and I know we've talked about this. You've played from all the way from the Keys all the way up to like Treasure Coast,
Yeah.
and uh, where can people connect with you if they want to reach out to have you play at their venues?
Oh, well, okay. And first of all, just for FYI, I grew up in Miami, and we left there when I was 12 and went to Indiana.
Oh, okay.
And Indianapolis was an incredible music town. John Hyatt and I lived 2 blocks from each other. There's another guy named Bill Wilson. I hooked up with a guy named Pat Webb, who was 42, traveled, he hopped freight trains with Woody Guthrie. And so there was so much music there. All the jazz greats went up to Floyd Smith's little jazz club there. It was a lot of music there. And the travels carried me out west, cutting record deals and all of that stuff. Things that never really culminated the way I want. I've been a Nashville staff songwriter, so on and so forth. But I ended up back in Florida in '78. Then I went to work in Nashville in '85. Went to Australia. I was famous in Australia for a while. Came back here, and I moved back to Florida. I mean, back to Nashville, and had in 1988, and then came back to Florida in 1990, and I went to work in the Keys at the Hog's Breath Saloon, and I worked there for 18 years, lived there for 6, went back and forth, and met my now former wife, and moved here to Jupiter in 96. I've been pretty much living here since. And yeah, I play anywhere from the Keys all the way up to Sebastian. If anybody wants to connect with me, it's real easy. You guys, I have a website. Yeah, website, and if you go to the landing page on my website, my phone number and everything are right there on the landing page. I don't hide it, but it's davidgoodmanonline.com. Davidgoodmanonline.com,
That's
and
easy.
yeah, and you'll see my phone number, my email address, everything, and for booking, and then there's two months of calendar that I always post online, so you can go, and there's a list of the venues that I play with links to their whatever their pages or their websites or whatever, and so I can always be found. And
Okay,
yeah,
great. I don't know if this is two questions or maybe like two intertwined. Uh, what kind of advice would you have for new musicians that are just getting out there, or musicians who just don't know how to go about playing live venues? Like, because I know you kind of are like your one man band, manager, producer. You're everything in that
yes,
department. Like you're one man band. So, what
yes.
advice? And I know you have a songwriting class too that you hold sometimes.
Well,
Um,
I actually, the songwriting class is not mine. That's Thea, Muhlenberg. She
yeah,
puts one on, and she's had me host 2 or 3 of those. And I think Stacy McDonald had one of the first one I did. So I do occasionally mentor singers and songwriters. I love to. You can't hear it in my voice. I'm very hoarse. I did 2 doubles in a row this weekend. Two high energy shows with Patty King. The
yeah.
fiddle player Patty King. He's in a 30-year-old. I'm 72. He's 30. When I get done with Patty, I feel the next day I feel like the Tin Man. I don't care. So my voice is coming out of 2 days of 8 hours of singing, so I'm a little off. But anyway, advice for you know the main thing I would say is, first of all, in your approach to music, don't approach it with an attitude of, oh, I'm going to get rich and famous, or it's a way to make money. Do your music out of your passion. Follow your passion no matter what it is in life, and it will lead you to where you're supposed to go. Do it with joy, do it with love, and if you're going to be a musician, play all the time. That's what I play. Just, love it, play. And not, it's so easy to fall into narcissism if you're not careful with playing music, because then you find yourself doing it for attention and approval. And
Mm.
if you're doing it for that reason, you're never going to be satisfied. And I go around with musicians all the time when they complain about people talking in the bars and all that. I just got into a debate recently with someone about that. And I'm saying, look, if you're playing in a restaurant, you are not the center of attention. you know you are part of the ambience, and you're lucky that restaurant is paying you to play. If you're playing in a listening room where you expect people to be there for your show, it's a different thing, like the Brew House Gallery. There's
Yeah.
times where we get incredible listening crowds in there. But if I'm playing, I have a place that I've been playing for 13 years now, Fresh Catch up in Stewart, Fresh Catch Seafood Grill.
Mm.
Hey, the people are there to eat dinner and talk and have fun. And then when I get a listening crowd, it's wonderful. But I just look at it this way. If they're not into it, guess what? I'm into the music, and that joy translates. And if you're up there being miserable because they're not paying attention, then it's going to translate too. And the people are going to feel that from you. Don't do it for that. Do it because you love it, and there's nothing else you can do. There's nothing, well, there might be something else you can do, but it's nothing else you want to do. You want to play music. Playing music for a living, it's difficult. The world has changed. Uh, I'm 72, my generation was all about live music. And, Vince, who used to own Double Roads, told me, said, I think, Dave, I think we're the last generation that's going to really love live music the way we did. It's now become a digital realm. It's become YouTube, and Instagram. And I think that's where a lot of the marketplace is. And I think that's great. I remember in the 60s just thinking, oh man, wouldn't it be great if we could have music videos, And now everybody can do it on their cell phone, and everybody can do, cakewalk and band lab, and you can do a lot of things. Now, of course, now everybody's doing AI, and I wish they wouldn't. Write your own songs. Don't let AI do it for you. You're talking to a computer. Write from the heart, sing from the heart, play your instrument and love your instrument, whatever it is. Let it come from there, and then the work will come. You might go to an open mic somewhere, or you just might be in a restaurant and talk to a manager one day and say, hey, I'm playing music. Would you be interested? And it's not easy anymore. The crowds are diminishing a little bit this year. I don't. Nobody knows quite why. It'll come back. It always says it's cyclical. But
Sure.
but the young kids today, you young ones out there, you've got YouTube and all of that. But I tell you what's missing is that personal live thing. And I would stress to the younger generation of that are addicted to this technology, is so wrapped up in technology and screens. I think there's some things that are great about it, and there's some things that are not good about it. And so I would say, if you're a musician, and if you are in the young generation now, I'm talking, in your 20s, and 30s, go out and support other live music. Get out there and get the live thing. Instead of, I see so many young people now that just kind of ignore it. They don't even see it or hear it. Well, maybe because I'm an old guy, but I used to love going out and hear the older musicians. In fact, most of my friends were much older than me when I was young. So go out and get the live thing and get that personal touch, and play for your friends. Go down to the beach and hang out with your friends and play songs. If you're, well, it's hard to do with a piano, but that's why I play guitar. I could take my guitar, and when I was 18, 20 years old, this guitar was with me everywhere I went, and and it was a great unifying thing. Music is love. Music is a unifier. So do it. Just do it and do it and do it. Write and write and write. If you're songwriting, let it pour out of you. and don't write with the idea of trying to write something just like you heard on the radio to write a hit. Write from your heart and from your soul. The world needs your truth, you know. And we, you know, my generation, we had to break through. We cracked the egg and everything. I mean, the 20th century was a 100-year renaissance. It was an incredible time for everything. I mean, especially in the arts, you know, music, theater, just unbelievable. Every form of music we listen to now, a lot of it was created in the 20th century. And but the commercialization of that kind of knocked the wind out of the sail. Now everything is kind of being digitally created. It's not the same.
It is, it is not the same.
No.
It is not the same. And I've heard you play, and I've known you for a long time, and I would say that you play such original pieces, and all your passion and all your heart and soul goes into those, because you have your stories connect with your songs, and you deliver that to the audience. And you, like your first song, love and is a gift. I mean, you share that gift of what you have in your heart with others, and it's just beautiful to hear you play and hear you sing. I have two specific songs that are my favorite that you sing, but I know that you had an idea of two songs you'd like to share with us. Do
Well,
you want
tell
to?
me what those two. What tell me what the favorites are. Let's see.
So the first one is "The Horses Are Wishes."
Oh, these wishes are horses.
These wishes are horses. I always get that wrong. Yes. And the other one was the one that you texted me the other day, which was so, wow, what a story that song told
Oh,
me.
we're in here somewhere.
We're in here somewhere. I mean, within that like 2 minutes, 3 minutes, you told like a lifetime of a story. And it was just so moving, David. It was just so powerful, because yeah, that's stuff that AI can't write. That's just human life, human nature, and it's what we live by. And wishes are horses too. It's like, yeah, being disconnected from computers and AI, and I'm not good with that kind of stuff, but just finding your, like you said, finding your passion, playing your passion, being in that space. I mean,
Yeah.
keeping it real is what, yeah, what I can relate to. And that's another reason why I do this radio show, is because I want to keep this music alive, the originality of it, because this is stuff you can't make up. It's
Yeah.
real. So
Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah, we
um,
need it. Well, you know what? I could definitely end up with today with the. I don't mind doing these wishes or horses. You know, well, we did it last night with Patty King.
no, Patty
Very high
King,
energy. You know,
I
we're in
have,
here, the song about "We're in Here Somewhere." That was written when I think we were in our third year of marriage or so. You know, it was
right.
our third or fourth. I think Amanda was still in diapers, and we were
Okay.
going through the typical stuff that married. You know, when the honeymoon's over and life sneaks up, and you got bills to
Yeah.
pay and kids, and you're not getting sleep, and you're both working. You know, a lot of times, you know, and there's money problems or just, you know, and then you're starting to find out things about each other that irritates you, you know, and you go, oh, you know, well, you know, you snore, you know, you're keeping me awake. You know, you know, so you find yourself in those battles that men and women can get into, husbands and wives and lovers can get into, and you find yourself saying stupid stuff, you know, and
Right.
you know, and you find yourself caught up. So it's like, where do we go? Those two in love who would never say, never do these hurtful things. How could we know the road was so rough? And when we flew, the rain would find our wings. Where do we go? I know we're in here somewhere. Here in my heart, behind the clouds of a worried mind. If we look deep enough, you'll see we're still in love. I swear, I know we're in here somewhere. And
It's a
I don't know.
beautiful, beautiful song.
Yeah. Yeah, it's coming along. My friend, I think the version I sent you was actually my partner and dear friend Jim Hunt produced uh, co-produced that version. Daniel Lombardi and I played a lot of it, recorded it first, sent it to Jim, and then he put his take on it and he sang it. And he really honored my melody and my vocals on it, and he sang it so passionately and beautifully. It's yeah, really wonderful. Can you hear
Yeah,
this?
it's a beautiful piece.
Can you hear that?
Yes.
This is Jim's version.
Oh, okay. Jim Hunt.
Huh?
Jim Hunt.
Jim Hunt, yeah. Yeah, his vocal's amazing. I can play it for you, but I know you want the live thing. So, but
Yeah.
yeah,
um, before we get to that song, I'm jumping around a little bit. Out of all throughout your journey, you've worked with a lot of famous people. Who would you say was the most inspirational to you, and that still kind of maybe something happened or something was said that, other than the teacher that inspired you as a child, in your adult life, who is it that you've kind of looked up to?
oh gosh, there's so many of them, and who I'd like to have worked. I'd never met James Taylor, although one of the guys that I play with was with him for 5 years. When I first heard James Taylor, I thought I was 15 and Fire and Rain came out in that album, and I thought there's a guy that really understands the acoustic guitar more than
Sure.
anybody I'd ever heard, you know. And so because I thought in those same kind of modes of Brazilian chords and an open passage, and I always approach guitar more like a piano than a guitar, and James did too. He plays it so wonderfully. And then and then Paul, for me, through my youth, what I always wanted to do, and I never got the financial wherewithal to do it, was I always heard the rhythms of Africa and
Mhm.
and music and the rhythms of South America. And I always had this dream of bringing them together. And Paul finally did with the Rhythm of the Saints album in 1990. That album brought the African guys and the Amazonian guys together. That vicariously I live. So those were some real strong influences as far as people that I've worked with. Um, I've brushed shoulders with a few famous people, but working directly. I think first of all, I owe a lot to my friend Gove Scrivener. Gove had been in Nashville quite a while. We met in Florida, and he was kind enough to take me to Nashville. And I wasn't really a country writer, at all. Right? That was way outside. But he hooked me up with some people that signed me as a staff songwriter for Herb Alpert's company, A&M Records. It was Almo Irving, and that was run by a guy named David Conrad, who was really had an ear for what made a song. And Garth Fundus, who was in a partnership with Almo Irving. He had Fundus Way, Fund That Way publishing. But Garth was a record producer. Beautiful man. He produced a Newgrass Revival. He was behind Sammy Bush and Bela Fleck and Pat Flynn, those guys. And he produced Crystal Gale and Don Williams. And they thought that if they could bring my writing inside,
Okay.
enough, I could change country music, right? And I only lasted about a year before I met Roberta and ran off to Australia, chasing whales and dolphins and all that crazy part of my life. Wonderful part, but crazy. Anyway, I think David Conrad, who was a very smart publisher, taught me a lot. Um, because I remember the first song that I brought in I was on my way to Nashville, but I went up to Indianapolis to visit my mom and her husband, and they had a big piece of land, and we had a big snowstorm. I got stuck there for 3 days, and I wrote a song called "Back Up Grinning Again," and I brought it to Dave, and he listened to it, and he said, "Well, there's three good lines in there, but you're not setting up your chorus. Blah blah. Go back and go to work." I'd bring it back to him, and he'd say, "Okay, I like that, but you're losing me here," And he worked me for
Right.
about a month on that song, and then and I don't even think of it as one of the better songs I've ever written. I hardly ever play it. Was kind of silly, but I learned a lot about being a better songwriter. So, and it ended up that song got recorded by Steve Warner, Kathy Mattea, and Jonathan Edwards, and they all did a different version of it. So that's the first real influencing as far as my writing goes. Gove introduced me to an amazing songwriter named Dave Loggins. In fact, David signed three of my songs at MCA before I went to Almo. And David Loggins wrote "Please Come to Boston," but he wrote hit after hit after hit. And he was a genius. He wrote 30 songs in his head at a time, never wrote a word down. And I remember Dave and I were standing out on the sidewalk outside of MCA. And he looked at me and he says, "Goodman," he says, "I have two favorite writers, you and John Scott Sherrill." And that
Oh,
blew me away. I don't know if he was being honest or not, but he looked at me and he says, "Let me tell you something, Goodman." He says, "Don't let Nashville tell you how to write a song." you know, but the way David used metaphor taught me a lot because I really
okay.
use a lot of metaphor, but he taught me about making it clear. Another person wasn't an artist that I worked with. It was another publisher, the first one to invite me back to Nashville because Gove brought me to the Bluebird Cafe and I did an open mic, songwriters open mic. And there's a man named Ralph Murphy uh, who owned Pickle Lick Music, him and Roger Cook, who wrote Long Cool Woman in a Black Dress and like The Teach the World to Sing On. These guys were hit songwriters. And Ralph came to me and he said, I want you to come back to Nashville and I want you to write with me. And he said, but let me tell you what you do. He said, you write, there's ice on empty branches beneath the barren frozen moon when you want to say, I hurt. He said, say I
Yeah.
hurt, you know so I was learning, and so then I found myself, thanks to Gove and the people I was around, I was suddenly surrounded by all these amazing writers. So more than the artist, it was the writers I was around, and I was learning to be a better songwriter. I was very inspired. I wrote really powerful songs. I had a huge following, and the songs were dynamic, and I could walk out on a concert stage in front of 20 or 30,000 people and get encores. But to be a better songwriter was my goal. I never thought of myself as an artist, you know.
Okay.
I didn't even learn to sing till later in life, and that was another gift. I did write and work with Greg Allman. Greg fell in love with my writing, and I spent quite a bit of time with him privately. He was surrounded by a lot of people that were around him because he was Greg Allman, but what connected Greg and I was music. In fact, the last time I saw him in Nashville, and it was the last time, was he wanted me to move in with him and write an album, but he kind of fell off his wagon, and I got the job in Key West, and we never saw each other again. But I had a really great relationship with Greg, and over the years, I met quite a few artists that really influenced me. I remember I first met Dan Fogelberg in LA when he was working on the Netherlands album, and I had Stevie Wonder's producer, and I wrote with Mike Cimbello from Stevie's band. I was really amazed at Fogelberg's writing and music. It was so beautiful. That really touched me a lot. Those people like that, But I always
Yeah.
was kind of me, I always did things my way. And but I learned from people like that. I don't know. The list
Sure.
goes on. Loggins was an
Well,
incredible singer and songwriter, but he didn't want to be a star anymore. He had one big hit and an album that sold a couple of million, but he pulled out and just wanted to write. And I think that was me too. I was never narcissistic enough to want to be a star. You know.
yeah, but you gift us all here, and for those of us that get to see you live, you have so much to share, and I'm so thankful that you've been a part of my life for so many years, and I mean, I never get tired of hearing you sing. Um, so
Yeah.
thank you. Now, I kind of like, how would you say it? I put you on the spot with two of my favorite songs, but I know in the back of your mind you had two other songs that you were thinking of sharing with us today. Would you like to
Really,
sing one of those now?
I I wasn't sure what I was going to do,
Okay.
and so I think we're in here somewhere. It might be a little hard to sing, but I better tune up.
I think we have time for about one more song, David.
Yeah, then you want me to do wishes. Why don't we do that?
Okay, that sounds great. And is there a little bit of a story that goes along with that
Yes.
song?
Well, there is a bit of story, and I think I wrote this back in the, let's see, might have been in the late '80s or '90s before I went to work at the Hogs Breath Saloon in Key West. My mother always used, there's that old saying, if wishes were horses, beggars would ride, And I was just thinking about that. And so I was just thinking, Mom, I just said I wish I had an ice cream cone, and she'd say, well, if wishes were horses. So and I wrote this song, and I turned the line around, turn it around, and that is, these wishes are horses. Hey, these wishes
Right.
are horses, and I'm still riding. And my attachment to Native culture, done a few powwows over the years, and And hey ya hey hoa is how I open it up. That's all that is really. Sort of like the Indian version of yeehaw, only it's a celebrate. You know, there's something celebracious about hey ya hey hoa, celebration of the earth. You know, doesn't have a literal translation. It's just more of an emotional translation. So I decided I was going to just say it in all in one song and write a wish. You know, we're always writing songs about, you know, how we wish it was a better world. Well, I decided, why don't they just say it all in one song? And so this song has sort of become a signature song, right? It is a little long. Yeah, we got, okay. So I'm going to
Yeah,
go into it.
we have a
Okay.
few minutes,
All right, here we go.
left. Okay. Well, I think we might just end with this song.
Uh, let me make sure I'm in tune. Let me make sure I'm in tune here.
Okay.
Because I was in that weird E flat tuning.
And
All
again,
right.
David, people can reach you at davidgoodmanonline.com.
Yes, that's all one word, davidgoodmanonline.com.
Okay. Yeah, so
And
let's finish this out with this song because I just noticed our time. So
all right. And there's calendars on the website. Um, and all right, here we go. Wish me luck.
all right.
I'll try to soften it a little bit, you know, not get so rambunctious. Hey, hey, oh, hey, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey. These wishes are horses, riding them high. No spurs, no reins, free gentle ride through the deserts despair, these canyons of pain. Ride them until the trail winds home again. I wish I could walk out and not feel afraid. Somebody look into the eyes, always look away. And the ears heard the music, filling the air. Your hearts were singing, joy to be here. These wishes are horses, riding them by. No spurs, no reins, just a free gentle ride through the deserts despair, these canyons of pain. Right down until the trail winds home again. And I wish there were waters clear as the southern skies, and the fires of our circle still blazing alive. And we walked in contentment, and our children would dance in the wild wind with the wild beasts and the whole men. And these wishes are horses. Hey, oh, hey, I'll shorten the break here.
It's a great song.
And I wish these dark towers would finally fall. Are we okay?
Yeah, I think we should. Can we end it early?
Huh?
Sorry.
Oh,
I want to, we have like 1 minute left and I love
oh,
this song, but I have to
all right. Well, you get the idea
respectfully,
then.
yes, respectfully, sorry. There's no
All right.
respectful way to cut you off, but because of our time, I want to thank you for making time to be on our show. And
Thank you for having me. It was really
you
sweet
are
of you,
loved.
so thank you.
You're welcome. You are loved by so many, and keep doing what you're doing, David, because you're a huge inspiration and your voice just, it moves all of us that listen to you.
Lisa, keep doing what you're doing too. You know, you're putting so much love in music, and you think of others all the time. And I know you have a heart for humanity, and you're just a
Thank
wonderful,
you.
wonderful soul. And hi, kitties.
Thank you. Yes. Yeah,
All right,
Kiki's is
darling.
here. All
All
right.
right, Mr. Gold.
All right. Much
Love
love.
you. Thank you.
Love you too. Okay. Bye. Thank you, everyone. It's been a phenomenal show today. And again, to reach David Goodman, it's davidgoodmanonline.com. And on a different note, we will see you next week. Same time, same channel.